Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the North American Sports Report. My name is Billy DiNapoli, and it is all about the U. Congratulations to the Miami Hurricanes advancing to the national championship game for the first time in 23, well, actually technically the second time in 23 years, the first time since January of 2003, where they were wronged in the game versus Ohio State. As we all know, the phantom flag that came out 5 minutes after the celebration had begun. The phantom pass interference call. We all remember it. We put that to rest by pounding Ohio State in this playoff run, and now the Canes will get the chance to advance to the national championship and win their first title since January of 2002. The 2001 Miami Hurricanes, still the greatest college football team of all time. More first-round draft pick, NFL Hall of Famers, you name it. So, we are going to go over the Miami Hurricanes victory over Ole Miss, 31-27. Listen, I said right on this show, if the Canes played a clean game, limited the penalties, limited the turnovers, just played a clean game, they were the better team on the line of scrimmage and they would win and probably win comfortably. Well, they did exactly the opposite of that. The Hurricanes couldn't have played a sloppier game. They couldn't have played a sloppier game. 10 penalties, 4 dropped interceptions, drop passes, and very questionable play calling by Shannon Dawson. Very questionable play calling. I'm just going to say this. They won in spite of Shannon Dawson. The Canes literally could have handed the ball off 40 times in a row and would have won that game. They were averaging almost 6 yards a clip on the ground. I mean, Mark Fletcher and Marty Brown, they combined for 191 yards, 133 yards for Fletcher, and they didn't even have to throw the ball. So why did they throw the ball 37 times? 37 times they threw the ball. They could have literally handed the ball off every time to Fletcher and Brown, and Ole Miss would have never stopped them. They would have never stopped them. But listen, we'll get to all that. Obviously, you're thrilled that the Canes won the game if you're a Miami Hurricane supporter. But it shouldn't have even been close. That game should have been 34-13, 34-16, 31-13. That's what the score should have been. That's how bad the Canes dominated. The Miami Hurricanes had the ball for 41 minutes and 22 seconds of that game. I mean, 41 minutes and 22 seconds of that game. They ran 88 plays on offense to Ole Miss's 60. I don't think that's ever been done before. That is domination at its finest. Domination at its finest. And listen, we kept them in it. We kept them in it with all the penalties and JoJo Trader with a bad drop that kills a first down. Carson missed a couple of passes early where he had open guys. The penalties were awful. You're not going to win a game. It looked like the Canes in October. That's how we lost to Louisville and SMU. You can't have 10 penalties in a playoff game and expect to win it and drop 4 interceptions and drop passes. You're usually not going to win those games. You drop 4 interceptions, you have 10 penalties for 75 yards, and you're dropping passes, you're probably not going to win the game. I mean, I think Miami only had 2 drops on the game. It wasn't as much drop passes. It was dropped interceptions. 4 Trinidad Chambliss interceptions were dropped. And they weren't difficult catches either. 4 of them. They were bobbling them. Yeah, this game could have easily been a 17-21 point victory for the Canes, and that's what it looked like on the stat line when you review it. That's what it looks like. But I digress. We did win the game, the University of Miami, that is. Sorry, I sound like such a homer. Like I've told you before in this show, I'm impartial when it comes to everything but the Miami Hurricanes. I am a Miami Hurricane supporter, and that is well known. And last night, I'm a little tired today, celebrating last night till about 2:30 in the morning. And yes, when I woke up to go to work on 4.5 hours of sleep, it did feel great to be a Miami Hurricane, I'm not going to lie. Last night, some numbers. Carson Beck, 23 of 37, 268 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. He also ran the ball for... Carson ran the ball for 28 yards and another touchdown. Although on his stat line, because they account sacks, he was sacked 3 times. And they gave him -6 yards rushing. But Carson in the game had 4 carries for 20. I'm sorry, he had 4 carries for 26 yards and a touchdown, and they were big carries. He got a couple of big first downs, and of course you saw him scamper for the game-winning touchdown at the goal line. So Beck, 23 of 37, 268, threw for 2, ran for another. Fletcher, 22 for 133. Brown, 14 for 54. Tony, 2 carries for 11 yards. 191 yards rushing for the Miami Hurricanes. Keelan Marion balled out, proving that the Canes' wide receiving core is very deep. So when you key on Tony, and Tony did have a wonderful night, 5 catches for 81 yards and a touchdown. Marion, 7 for 114 and a touchdown. C.J. Daniels, 4 for only 26, but there were a couple of big catches he made for first downs to keep drives going. C.J. has been clutch all playoffs. Now we're going to go over on the defensive end. Torrey had a sack, and he probably was one of the... Mohamed Torrey was probably one of the defensive stars of the game. He had 4 tackles and a sack. Jacoby Thomas had 5 tackles and 2 passes defended. Those are your 2. Lucas was having a great game until he got wrongfully ejected for targeting. But the Canes, you would expect, Bain and Mesidor to dominate. They didn't. Because credit to Ole Miss, their game plan was a quick 2- and 3-step drop and deliver passing game. So he would get the ball, bap, deliver. 2-step, deliver. 3-step, deliver. Quick passing game, and also the no huddle. The no huddle at a fast pace with a quick 2-step drop and delivery game plan neutralized the Miami Hurricane pass rush, as was the plan for Coach Golding and the Ole Miss Rebels. Now, I'm going to say this. There was a lot of questionable calls in my mind, a lot of questionable play calls from Shannon Dawson. I'm going to give you a couple of situations that just drove me crazy. Early in the game, the Canes are driving. They're just driving down the field. Fletcher's running at will, and they have a 3rd and 2 from around the 10-yard line. It might have been the 12-yard line. And on the sequence, they put Malachi Tony in the Wildcat at the quarterback position, and they try a crazy Wildcat play, a rushing play, where he loses a yard and a half. So now instead of just continuing to run in the set they were in with Beck under center and handing the ball to Fletcher, 3rd and 2 would have probably been a first down, or at least 4th and inches. They could have just easily continued to pound the rock. And they go to some crazy Wildcat play with Tony under center. He gets tackled for a loss of almost 2 yards, and they got to kick a field goal. Right there, you could be up 7-0, you're up 3-0. Mistake number 1. And me and a bunch of buddies that were watching or texting, we said it right at the time. Why are they in this formation? Why don't they just keep pounding the ball with Fletcher? So that cost us 4 points right there. Okay? Then there's other instances. He's driving the ball. They're just pounding the rock at 5, almost 6 yards a clip. Oh, let's do a flea flicker. He's sacked. Why would you do a flea flicker? Just keep handing the ball off. Keep it simple. Crazy. There was a couple of throws Carson put into double coverage when he didn't have to. You got a 2nd down and 3. Run the ball again. I'll give you another, for instance, that drove me nuts. I can give you a bunch of them, because there was a bunch of them. End of the first half, 17-10. Canes just get a nice stop on defense. They have the ball. They're up 17-10. Now, there's a minute and 21 seconds left. So you're going to either just kill the clock, go in at halftime because you have the ball coming out and you're already up a touchdown. Now, if you can get a field goal, tack on 3, that would be great. So here's what you want to do. You don't want Ole Miss to use their timeouts. I believe they had all 3 left. So it's a minute 21. I think after the punt, it was a minute 13. Okay? Run the ball. You're running the ball again, 5, 6 yards a clip. Run the football. If you break off a couple of runs and now the 25 is the 40, you use your timeouts, try to get into field goal range for Carter Davis, and go in 20-10. That's it. So run the football. You don't want to take a negative play because then Ole Miss will call their timeouts. And they've got a kicker with a 60-yard leg. What does Dawson do? First play, pass play, Carson is sacked. What does Ole Miss do? They call a timeout. What's the halftime score end up being? 17-13. Because that's exactly what happened. You got behind the sticks with a negative play. Instead of just handing the ball to Fletcher or Marty Brown, you kick it back. They make a couple plays. Guy kicks a 58-yarder. 17-13. So now, you're giving points away. You gave away 4 points on your first drive with a stupid gadget play. Now, because you have poor clock management, you cost yourself another 3 points. You just cost yourself 7 points. Okay? This game at half is only 17-13. It's only 17-13. You know what it should be? It should be 21-10. 21-7, 21-10. That's what it should be. So Nick Saban said at halftime on the broadcast, he said they're dominating the game. Dominating it. Yet they're only up by 4 points. And there were penalties. I think in the first half alone they had 4 penalties for 34 yards just in the first half. They finished with 10 for like 75 yards. Okay? They did a bad job disciplining, and they were stupid penalties. Roughing the quarterback, and Moton could have got another roughing the quarterback because he hit Chambliss as he was running out of bounds. He hit him 5 yards out of bounds. And then Dre Blay. What are you doing? Number 11, Blay on a late hit. The announcers even said that Canes were unraveling. If you're going to win the national championship against a disciplined team, Coach Narduzzi's Indiana Hoosiers, or Coach Lanning's Oregon Ducks, you cannot make these type of mistakes. But they were so much better than Ole Miss, they got away with it. Now, I gave you those sequences. They cost us points. Bad clock management, bad play selection. We did it again. Another drive, 15-play drive. We're just pounding them. There was the play where Fletcher gets like 6 or 7 yards, and then they push the pile for an additional 12 yards. It's like an 18, 19-yard run where they just push the Ole Miss. The offensive lineman and Fletcher just push the Ole Miss lineman all the way downfield. So now, you're driving again. 17-13. You're at least going to get a field goal. 3rd and 2. Run the ball. Run the ball. What's he do? Throws the ball. Ball's deflected. Intercepted. Again, you just gave away 3 points at least. Like I said, with the penalties and the dumb play calls by Dawson, Once you added it all up at the end of the game, you had a 17-point swing. And that doesn't even count the 4 dropped interceptions. So this game shouldn't have even been close. Those were the key points of botched play calling for me. And even during the Canes' winning drive, I think they ran the ball twice. And they had timeouts. They had 2 timeouts. And you didn't want to leave any time on that clock. They did a decent job of clock management on that last drive where Carson Beck was just fantastic. Carson Beck, 2 touchdown drives led in the 4th quarter, leads the Canes from behind twice. He proved to you why you brought him to the University of Miami. His veteran leadership, his calm under pressure, it was very impressive. This is why 268 yards and another 26 on the ground and 3 touchdowns and only 1 turnover that wasn't his fault. 3 all-purpose touchdowns and nearly 300 yards of offense and doing it all in the clutch. That's why you brought Carson back to Miami. That's why you brought Carson back to Miami. So now, Carson was fantastic on the last drive. He was fantastic, and then he caps it off with the rushing touchdown. I believe they were at they had like a 2nd and goal from the 6-yard line, and they had a 2nd and goal at the 6-yard line. Carson goes back to pass. He looks, and he just darts through a little hole and breaks to the left, and there's nobody on the left side of the field, and he waltzes in, high-stepping in for the touchdown, and that was the game winner, but it was close. You figure with only 18 seconds left, you had chewed up enough of the clock. But as it turned out, Dawson should have chewed up a little more. Carson was just fantastic on that last drive. The Canes were 11 of 19 on 3rd down and 2 for 2 on 4th down. On that final drive, Carson converted 4 third downs. The Canes converted 4 third down plays, but 3 of them were pass completions by Carson Beck. He had the 3rd and 12 completion to Marion over the middle. He had another 3rd and 4 completion to C.J. Daniels on that drive. Carson was fantastic on that final drive. That drive alone will go down in history for the University of Miami. That's why you brought Carson Beck to Miami. As it turned out, Ole Miss, they got the ball back. Now, injuries during the game. O.J. Frederick went out early 3rd quarter, never came back. We're not exactly sure what was wrong with him. He practiced all week. We don't know if he re-aggravated a lower body injury that he sustained in the Cotton Bowl. Moton played with a sprained ankle, and he got hurt early in the game, but he did come back, and he did finish the game. Messidor had an arm injury. They had to put his arm in a big wrap. He came back. He played till the end of the game. But you lost Xavier Lucas to a ridiculous spearing penalty. It was just a bad call. And then you lose Frederick, so you're missing your 2 corners. They had 2 freshmen, Nelson, number 24, and, I don't even know who the other kid was. That's a bad job by me. Let's see. Here it is. Jabari Antoine. Jabari Antoine was one of the freshmen on the back end in the final. Well, he had to play pretty much the entire second half. Him and Ethan O'Connor. Ethan O'Connor, number 24. These guys are freshmen. Ethan O'Connor and Jabari Antoine came off the bench. Now, Ethan O'Connor is the DB that broke up the final throw into the end zone at the end of the game. Because, as we know, Trinidad Chambliss literally had them pass midfield in in 13 seconds, they were on the other side of midfield. Then after another pass, they're at the 35. They're at the 35-yard line with 6 seconds to go. Time for one more play. He rolls to his left. He throws it into the end zone on the left side. Everybody leaps up. Was there contact? Yes. Are you calling pass interference? No. A lot of the Ole Miss faithful are crying all day on social media. I've heard it on the radio. They're crying all day about that was a pass interference call. You know what? If you look at it closely, there was contact. But in no way are you calling pass interference on the last play of the game. There's no way that's happening. No way. That type of contact happens during every deep ball throw to the end zone, Hail Mary situation. It happens every time you throw a Hail Mary. There's always hand fighting and jockeying for position in the end zone. You're not throwing a flag there. There was contact. He did grab him. They were hand fighting, but he did get his hand on his arm. He did. They didn't call it. Would they call it in the first or second quarter? Probably. Is anybody calling that at the end of the game on a desperation Hail Mary? No. Not happening. It's not controversial. I heard people comparing it to our 03 championship game against Ohio State. That was a blatant blown call. There was no pass interference there, and the flag came down after the celebration already began. That was a blatant miscarriage of justice. There's no comparing a Hail Mary chuck into the end zone at the end of the game the other night to what happened at the Fiesta Bowl in 2003 to Miami. Anyway, there's no flag there. The game ends. You finish the second half of that game with 2 underclassmen in your backfield, and it showed. Because as soon as Lucas and Frederick were out of the game, all of a sudden there was a little more room in that secondary for the Ole Miss receivers, Stribling and company, to make plays. And they did. But to the Miami's credit on defense, I mean, Chambliss didn't really do anything till the fourth quarter. And he should have thrown 4 picks. He didn't do anything until our starting DBs were out of the game. And, I mean, they didn't even run a play in the red zone in the first half. They had Keon Lacey's 73-yard touchdown on a broken play, which he then aggravated his hamstring injury. And granted, them not being able to run the ball, I mean, I think Ole Miss had like 93 yards rushing, and 73 of them came on that one play. They didn't run the ball at all the rest of the night, and that did put all the weight of the game on Chambliss. Anyway, that wraps up a great 31-27 victory for the Miami Hurricanes. They now advance to the national championship game on January 19th, where the Canes will be at Hard Rock Stadium, their home. They will host the national championship game. So the Canes, will they have an edge? Yeah, probably. I mean, I know a lot of those seats are bought corporate, but I would guess it's probably a 70-30 split. There was probably a 60-40 split in Ole Miss's favor last night at the Fiesta Bowl. We had a good showing at the Cotton Bowl. But that's it. The Canes advanced to the national championship. What a great job by Mario Cristobal getting this entire program turned around in just 4 years, where the Canes are back where they belong. College football is better when the Miami Hurricanes are great and in the spotlight. Now, tonight, Oregon and Indiana have just kicked off, 7:45. So I'm going to get out of here. That spread is now down to -3. I am going to give out a pick tonight. I am going to take Indiana -3. I am 37-29-2 in college on the season. 37-29-2. I am taking Indiana tonight. I think the game will be tight. I'm just going to judge it by the last time these guys played. They were in Oregon. Indiana beat them 30-20, and the score was a little closer than it actually wasn't indicative of how Indiana really controlled that game. So if they could do that to them in Oregon, I think they could do it to them again. I like Dante Moore, but I did think Oregon was pretty sloppy against Texas Tech. I'm going to give out Indiana straight -3 for my picks tonight. We have NFL playoffs Saturday, Sunday, Monday. We're going to come on tomorrow morning at 11:30, and we're going to go over all the NFL games. I'm going to give you picks. And we will see if you're a Miami Hurricane fan. You'll watch this game with great interest to see who the Miami Hurricanes will play on January 19th in the national championship game at Hard Rock in Miami Gardens. Will it be Oregon? Will it be Indiana? Both teams are great. Both teams are well coached. I think Indiana, that coach is incredible. Do you know that the Indiana Hoosiers, they have not lost they don't turn the ball over at all. I heard a stat where they have not lost a fumble all season. That can't be true. I heard a stat on the radio that they had not lost a fumble. Oh, I think they hadn't lost a fumble since week 2. Let's actually, I gotta find this out. Curt Cignetti, bottom line, Curt Cignetti's team is just so well coached, and they don't make mistakes. So if you're a team like Miami, you cannot play like you did, as sloppy as you did against Ole Miss. Miami's so talented. They're probably the most talented team left. They got NFL dudes on the offensive and defensive lines. They got skill players everywhere, but they're their own worst enemy. They've got to play a clean, buttoned-up game like they had played the 4 previous games before this. But last night was like a trip back to October for the Canes. If they play that sloppy with those type of penalties and drops and head-scratching play calls, they will not beat a buttoned-up team like Indiana and even Oregon. Who would I rather play if I'm a Miami guy? You don't ever wish for that. That'll get you burned. I think Indiana's better. It's why I just picked him. I like Dante Moore. I do think Dante Moore's a little overrated. I think if he's smart, he goes back to college and plays one more year. Because if he comes out, he just might end up being the second pick in the draft, and he'll end up on the freaking New York Jets. We know where that'll go. Well, Indiana has scored already, 7-0. I just saw the update. Indiana has scored on a interception. As I'm just telling you, Dante Moore should go back to school. Dante Moore was just picked off for a pick 6 from about, it says, 25 yards out. And Indiana has the early lead, 7-0. So there you have it. Get to your TV sets. Watch this game. We'll be on tomorrow morning with all the NFL stuff, and we'll go over the playoff stuff. Congratulations to the Miami Hurricanes for making it to the national championship game. But you guys, like we said, you're going to have to do a better job. You're going to have to be way more buttoned up and do a better job with the penalties and all the mental mistakes that they made. To their credit, I heard there was a really bad flu going through Miami. They were all dealing with that bad flu that was going on. A lot of the players were sick. I heard that that's even the reason why Frederic left the game. He needed an IV, and he was dehydrated and lightheaded, and that's what I heard. That's only from some of my contacts. I can't say I have that confirmed. Mario did say after the game that a lot of the players were dealing with the flu. I'm not making excuses for them, though. You're not gonna win too many games when you commit 10 penalties. So the Canes got there just because of their roster is just amazing. They have a great, super talented roster. Credit to Mario for the way he put it together and coaching them up. But he's got to really look at how Shannon Dawson is calling his offense, and he's got to make sure his kids get back to the discipline that they exhibited the previous 4 games. Because you're not going to beat Indiana or Oregon if you're committing 10 penalties in a game. That's just the way it is. So we'll see you guys. I'm out of here. Get to your TVs. Indiana, Oregon on now. Indiana up 7-0. Remember, I took Indiana -3. And that's where we're at. Have a good night. I'm Billy DiNapoli. This is North American Sports Report. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please follow us on our Facebook page. It's North American Sports Report and Billy DiNapoli. And follow me on Instagram. You guys have a great night. Snap like north south.